Hello, I'm Joe Walensky, and I'm the host of the Digital Accessibility Podcast, where we talk to the people behind the progress. And today I am visiting with Aileen Hackett. Hello, Aileen. How are you today?
Hi, Joe. I'm very well. Thanks for inviting me to the podcast.
Well, it's good to have you here. I'm talking from my home office, which is in Bellingham, Washington, about 80 miles north of Seattle. Where are you talking to us from today?
I'm in near San Francisco, about 13 miles outside of San Francisco on the East Bay in the Bay Area.
Yeah, thanks for being part of this. I'm looking forward to hearing about your journey into accessibility. And a good place always to start is if you could tell us a little bit about what you're up to now.
Sure. So currently, I work at ServiceNow, and what I do there is I'm the director of product management for accessibility, and we have a small but mighty team of people at ServiceNow who work on accessibility. And so, what my team do is they're responsible for making sure that our platform and our products all are accessibility conformant, but also usable for people with disabilities. I think both are important. Of course, it's really important to be WCAG accessibility conformant, but it's also important that the apps are and products are usable for people with disabilities. And we're also doing things as well around introducing new products or features that can enable people with disabilities in their work life. So that's what
Oh,
I currently do.
go ahead.
That's what I currently do, and I've been at Service now about 8 years. Before I was full time on the on accessibility product team, I was on the design system team. So we had some remit for accessibility there too. And before that, I worked at another company on design systems and accessibility. So this has been my world for I guess the last few years. So I'm very excited to be working in this field and love what I do.
Well, you work for an organization which is fairly large with, I assume, a lot of moving parts. So for the work that you're involved in, does that cover all of the different product and service aspects of your organization, or are you involved with one particular aspect of it?
Anything to do with digital accessibility. We work with it's not just our accessibility product team, but we work with what we call an accessibility center of excellence. So we have people from engineering, from design, from UX research that we partner closely with and make sure that all the platform and products are accessible. And of course, everyone at ServiceNow is you know, part of making everybody who creates software is part of making it accessible. It's not just down to the accessibility team. And we have a pretty successful program which we've introduced, which is we have mandated that there's over 20,000 employees, and everyone must take accessibility training annually. And we've got a lot of great feedback actually on it because generally I find that people really want to do the right thing and make the software accessible. And just spreading this awareness of how it impacts people with disabilities if you don't can be really powerful. So we've got lots of great feedback. Even though we mandated it, we've got a lot of great feedback on it. And it does help us to make sure everyone cares about accessibility, not just the accessibility team.
Well, I think that's always a good indicator of a progressive organization when accessibility is broadly available to all the people in various roles involved in products.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think it's important, we also have our internal employees. We have a really powerful, important group, employee resource group for people with disabilities and their allies. And I'm on that group too. But what we've built there, which is interesting, is we built also a panel of volunteers who said, you know what, if you're looking at some new feature that you want our feedback on, let us know. And so we have this volunteer, it's confidential, but we have a volunteer panel that our UX researchers can utilize if they need to get f specific feedback. So that's been really nice to see build as well.
Yeah, that sounds great as well. What about your background? What found you to into what brought you into the accessibility profession? What were some of the things you did before you got involved in accessibility, and how'd you end up where you are today?
Well, I started off my career as a software engineer, and I still, I do love solving problems, and that's part of, what I've always loved doing. I moved over into product management then, and like I said, I was working on design systems and liked working on systems and approaches that would impact everyone. So that was kind of my journey. And then I actually, when I was on the design system at a previous company, I was talking with a junior engineer on the team. And she was saying, I think we can do more. We're doing, a lot for making the components and the design system accessible, but I think we can do more. And would you come with me to this conference at the weekend around accessibility? And so at first I hesitated, I cannot lie, because my son is in plays baseball, and usually every weekend I'm on the bleachers at a baseball game. But she pleaded with me and said, I think you're going to learn a lot if you come. And so I'm so grateful to her. Her name is Tally Marcus. Shout out, Tally. And we went together to this conference, and it was mind blowing. It's the Bay Area accessibility camp run by Jennison Asuncion, and they have it annually. And this particular one, there was a lady in there who was showing how she was a screen reader user. She was blind herself, and she was showing how difficult it was to work and access a web page. There was one particular place where she was looking at a carousel, and it was awful, And so, it helped me, see things in a new light and double down and focus on accessibility. And that's where I decided I wanted to focus full time on accessibility. So yeah, so that's the background. And then of course, like everybody else, we all have, whether it's temporary disabilities that, or, situational disabilities as well that can influence, how you work and how you can use software, and also family members as well who have had disabilities. So the combination of all of that led me to the role I'm in now.
Well, I think for those of us that find our way into accessibility, or there always comes a time where we're kind of wondering, where do we go to learn the craft of this particular profession? What was it like for you once you found it something that you were very interested in? Where did you go to start to build up your skills?
I think the very first important thing is to talk to the community and people with disabilities and find out what their pain points are or what challenges they have in accessing software. So I did a lot of that, talking to people and talking to other accessibility experts and learning about more about the field. There are certifications you can take too. And so, but I think the more important thing is to understand the experiences and the user experiences of someone who is deaf or someone who is blind or has limited physical mobility, and experience what they're doing. And then you can start imagining and thinking about solutions. And like I said, I love problem solving. So that was where I started. We also, did it at ServiceNow. We did something interesting, which was we decided that we wanted to make sure that we were shifting left in the whole software development lifecycle process. So instead of fixing defects or thinking as testing as being the place where you test the software for accessibility, we wanted to shift to left. And what I mean by that is that as we're planning new features or enhancing software or making new products, that in the design phase, we're thinking about the experience of people with disabilities and accessibility at that point, right? So that was a change. And about 4 years ago, then we changed our approach where we had accessibility sitting in the product org and treating it as a product with a roadmap to improvements, rather than being reactive when there was issues, being more proactive and seeing how can we build in processes to our practice to make sure that we're treating it as proactively as we could.
Well, it sounds like you created a good mission and framework for your accessibility work. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about what it's like, kind of a day in the life, or maybe a week in the life of your activities. What obviously as managers we're involved in managing, but what are some of the accessibility aspects that you find that take up a lot of your time?
Good question. I do say that every day is a little different, which I like. There's a lot of different aspects when you work on accessibility team. Of course, we're not perfect, and of course, there is sometimes issues that you have to re figure out where the underlying issue is and assign it to the right people to get it fixed, and then influence and make sure that it does get fixed, right? So that does happen. But I guess the days I love most is when we're brainstorming on new ideas and innovations. Like yesterday, somebody on my team came up with this idea, and it's a really interesting idea to help screen reader users when they're onboarding. And she had some great ideas of using AI and doing it in a certain way. And so that's really exciting. And then seeing an idea like that to come to fruition, throughout make it happen. And so that's kind of a good thing. We also work with a little bit on both internal and external awareness, right? So, even though we have this good framework, like you mentioned, and we've put in this into our processes, steps and guardrails and resources to help people make accessible software, it's still an important part of the job to continue to advocate for accessibility and support people, because not everybody is an expert. It's a lot to know about the ins and outs and the technical details of accessibility. But supporting those people, enabling them, is a large part of what I do as well. And then externally, also letting people know that our company is a good has a good accessibility practice, and subsequently our software is highly conformant and accessible. And we have a goal to be the leader for accessibility in enterprise software. And so part of my job is also, making sure that people know about that as well. So, but I think going back to your question, I think the days when we've got some great idea, and there's one actually that we're working on right now. It's close to being delivered in April. And it came from a member of the team who, during an innovation day, we had this innovation day where we were, brainstorming on ideas, and that's coming out now. And also, we've implemented something recently that came from one of our customers. So we talk a lot with our customers, and our customers, including who lead accessibility practices in their organizations or advocate for accessibility, and the community of people who have disabilities. And we have something else that came out recently that was really a customer who he has a visual disability, so he's almost fully legally blind, but he had an idea. And he came to us and said, "What do you think about this?" And we were able to implement that. And things like that make me most excited, I guess.
Yeah, well, those are really great stories, and you paint a really good picture of the quality of accessibility in your organization. It, it's it's not always the case that organizations are, as receptive and supportive in terms of accessibility. Sometimes it comes from primarily a compliance aspect, but it sounds like your organization, it's a lot bigger than that. So, do you have any thoughts about like how that all has come together and how it seems that you have so many rich activities going on?
Yeah, and I think my advice on that is I've talked to other people in other organizations, and the accessibility community is very collaborative and sharing. And so, we've had conversations on this with other leaders in their organizations who lead accessibility and maybe are struggling getting it prioritized in their organization. And so, some of the things I advise on that is you have to kind of find what your company cares about or what your leaders care about and use that to your advantage. Like, for example, we all know AI is becoming really important, right? And so if you build software with accessibility built in, with that semantic layer built in, it's much better for AI. So AI works better. If that's the important thing that your company is working on now, that's a good angle. If you are, the other thing is that you're missing out on a lot of opportunity for sales. So if you've got a website or a app or product and you're missing out on a whole pool community if it's not accessible, and that could be the money angle, right? And so whatever your company cares about, in the other thing I've seen is when you're talking to different groups of people within the company too, like usability. Designers care about having the optimal user experience and making it as usable as possible. And so that's another good angle to approach it if you need to get buy-in.
Well, you've already talked a little bit about some of the kind of current new things happening within your team, but kind of looking forward to, the rest of the year, looking forward into the future. Are there any things that you're looking forward to, new initiatives, or on the other side of it, possibly issues that you're concerned about that you think might be challenges going forward?
I think I'm really excited actually about AI and what it can do on in two areas, right? One is, innovations around how to help people with disabilities. I was at the CSUN conference recently in back in March in Anaheim, and I attended a session there, and the presenter was someone who was deaf and blind. And his topic was, how does AI benefit the deaf blind community? And there was a lot of positive reactions and some concern. So I think both of those are valid. So from an excited point of view, I think AI can really help. Like we see things like AI summarizations, AI skills that help you to do something quicker. On the cognitive side, there's a lot going on there. Voice, we've implemented voice AI and it's so good, So, you can hear, even if you have an accent or a stutter or stammer, the the AI can understand it and understand you, and it's pretty powerful. So there's a lot of things good with coming with AI, and that's what excites me, and a lot of things that can help the community. But I think also something that was raised at CSUN and some other places I've been talking with people is that we must make sure to guard against bias. So a lot of the large language models, for example, are based on code that's out there, and if there's a lot of inaccessible code out there, they're going to create inaccessible code going forward, whether it's created by AI or a human. So we have to guard against that and put guardrails in there to make sure that doesn't happen. And likewise, just bias in general in those large language models to make sure that it's including people, that all these large language models are including people with disabilities as a part of the community and being inclusive.
Well, Aileen, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. I appreciate all of your insights, especially these ones about AI. I think are ones that give me some new things to think about, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your journey with everyone that listens to this.
Okay, I'm delighted to talk about accessibility. As you know, I'm very passionate about the topic. So I'm happy to talk about it and share my experiences and delighted to be on the podcast today. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye bye.
Okay, take care.